Hi, my name's Cameron. I'm the founder of Lutomasa Gardens. I am an edible garden consultant, and today I want to teach you how to sow some warm season crops. I will be using a kit that I put together for my seed starting class that I taught this past weekend, which will be available on my website for purchase if you wanted to do a DIY version of it. And you can use this video as a guide to setting the kit up. Seeds that are included are just kind of like sample sizes of seeds, so it's not an overwhelming amount of seed that you'll get versus like if you bought a whole packet of seed and you get like 100 tomato seeds and you don't know what to do with them because you don't even know if you like the variety of seed that you're growing. Anyway, so there's like little sample packs to give you an idea of how these specific crops grow. There's tomatoes, cherry tomato and a paste tomato, 2 cherry tomatoes, paste tomato, couple peppers, sweet peppers, 1 hot pepper, tomatillo, and ground cherry. Those are the fruits. And then we also have a couple varieties of celery, green onion, a couple flowers, and some basil. And then there's one other, like a bonus seed that you don't necessarily have to sow in this tray. I would recommend sowing it like in a pot elsewhere, but it is a bonus toothache plant, one of my favorites. If you chew on the little flower bud, it makes your mouth go numb, and it's fun to bring to parties because it confuses a lot of people and it freaks them out. So if you want to stir some shit up, that's the plant for you. I'll also briefly go over a bit of post-care once your trays are put together. But that information is also available on my website as a free PDF download. So if you don't get all the information here, then more information will be found in that PDF. But if you have questions or anything, any suggestions for something that I should add to that, feel free to let me know, because I would love to get feedback on this and continue to improve upon my seed starting guides. Okay, so here is the seed starting kit. I have a 15 cell tray, and it also comes with a humidity dome. It goes right on top when you are done sewing it. It has the cells and then a bottom tray. There comes with 16 plant tags. The extra one will be for your whatever plant that you choose to not include in this particular tray. And here are the sample packs of the seeds. As you can see, there's only, a few seeds included in each pack. The way I intended for these to be used is just, sow a few of them into the tray, and then what's left can be used as extra if, you don't get successful germination the first round. You can re-sow the cell or another pot with them and try again, but you don't need to sow all the seeds in the packet right away. You also get a little care guide here, and then some information about each seed and like the temperature that it should be kept at, planting depth, and then days to germination, so you kind of know, you have a good idea of what to expect there. And then the QR code will take you to my website where you can find your care guide download and more information about these particular seeds. I'm not going to go over them in great detail, so definitely go to my website and check out their profiles if you want more information about each particular seed variety. Okay, so this is how you're going to want to fill your tray. You have a tray here. Take it out of the base. Just have the cells. You're going to have your soil mix here in whatever container that you're doing it in. And then you're going to want to just fill it up, fill each cell up to the top. Okay. Oops. It's going to be a little messy. But you're definitely going to want to fill your tray up first, all the way before you start sowing seeds. You don't want to be sowing seeds like as you're filling up the tray. So don't fill up one cell, put seed in there, fill up another, put seed in there. Just fill it up at the same time so that you're not making a huge mess. So once they're all kind of even in there, you're going to want to tap it down just lightly, not too much, just to get the air pockets from below. Because if you water when those air pockets are there, then your soil is just going to sink down on top of your seedlings, and you don't necessarily want that to happen. So after you tap it down a bit, you're going to add just another light layer over the top to make them even again. Make sure to label your tray, because I can't stress this enough. I have done so many different trays that I have been like, oh, I'll totally remember what I planted in here when they come up, and wouldn't you know it, I forget immediately how I sewed a tray. So definitely want to start with labels. Okay, so I have my tray all labeled. I'll start on this side here. I have all my peppers at the end, followed by my tomatillos, my ground cherry, tomatoes in the middle, the celery, lemon bergamot, and then all of my basil here. Tomatillos, there are 2 in here. Everything else I'm just doing 1 of, but tomatillos, you do need to have at least 2 plants in the garden for them to set fruit, because they are not self-fertile plants. Okay, so I'm going to begin sowing. I'm going to be using this little dental tool to sow the seeds. And if you want the full story about why I use these dental tools for sowing, I made an Instagram reel. You can go find that on my Instagram at Lutomasa Gardens. I'll link it in the description below. But anyways, so I'm going to be starting with these 6 cells here. These are your surface sow, or quarter inch, or not quarter inch, but like an 1/8 inch sowing. So basically, just right on the soil surface, because these are basil seeds here. They are very small and don't want to have to push through a whole lot of soil medium to sprout. So what I typically do for those is I just kind of rough up the surface a little bit, so that there's a little crevasses they can fall into. And this is the cardinal basil, and there are 4 seeds of each of those, because it is a more expensive seed, because it is highly sought after for their beautiful purple blooms. I have not grown it before, so I'm looking forward to growing this one this year. So I just drop them right on the surface into the crevasses, and you can kind of mix it up a little. So, basil likes a 1/4 inch. So usually for my basil, I do a surface sow, but you can also kind of sow them a little bit deeper, and they won't mind it too much. Let's just kind of mix them up in there, and they should be good. Okay, I'm going to do the rest. I'm going to do the same exact thing with my purple opal basil. I'm going to go ahead and just do 4 of those as well, and just scattering them on the soil surface. I think that was 4, maybe 5. Okay. I'll do it just like that, and then I'll save the rest for later, in case those don't sprout, or I want to do another sowing later in the season, maybe a little bit closer to my last frost date. So at least, and this is the Emily basil, and I'm going to just do 4 or 5 of those in this. Basil is a fun seed to watch germinate, because it gets like this weird little gel coating around the seed as soon as water hits it. So it looks kind of weird, but that's completely normal, and it's to help retain moisture and aid in the germination. So when you see that, don't freak out and think something's wrong. It's completely normal. I'm just going to tap them down to secure them. And then after I'm done with the rest of the tray, then we can water everything in. Okay, next we have the lemon bergamot, which is also a very small seed here. This is going to be see. Yeah, definitely a surface sow with these. They don't want to push through a lot of soil to sprout. And I think I'm gonna do four of these seeds in this cell back here. And just like the basil, I'm gonna kind of stir it up a little bit. But for these, I'm gonna sow them somewhat towards the middle so I know where they're at. 3 and 4. There's that, and then I'm gonna just tamp them down a little bit to secure them in there and leave it at that. And then we have celery coming up. Let's see the green celery first. Same thing, very, very small seeds. Take those out. And you don't have to put them in your hand. You can kind of just shake them out into the cell as well. I'm going to rough up my soil first. Rough it up. Just like that. And I think I'm just going to do 4. It's a good rule of thumb. Just do 3 to 4 seeds per cell, just in case like 2 of them don't germinate. At least you're not wasting that space. You can have multiple seeds sprouting at the same time. It just increases your odds for germination, better odds. Okay, so that is the celery, and I just tapped it down like you saw. Secure them in there. Red celery coming up next. This is very cold hardy. My plants are they're still going strong in my garden, but the red celery is better for like soups and stews rather than just eating fresh, so be aware of that. Very fragrant. Oops. Okay. Kind of stuck down at the bottom there. Okay, there we go. And again, just gonna rough it up. Yeah, definitely push the bigger perlite out of the way. See, these are super, super small. See, little itty bitty. And I'm just gonna put there. There. Okay, and tap it down. There we go. Okay, so those are all the surface sowing seeds. Now I deliberately left out my green onions. These are an 1/8 inch sow, so you rough it up a little bit more. You can plant them a little bit deeper when you plant those, but you can also start these basically any time of the year. Right now is a good time because they do take a little bit longer to get big, but they are cold hardy, so really you can do them like in the middle of summer and plant them out in the fall, and they'll survive the winter. So I think I'm going to start these a little bit later, specifically also because I had to do 2 of the tomatillos versus just 1 of them. So I needed the space in the tray. The yarrow as well. I have a few of those plants already going, so I didn't need to start some more. And then the toothache plant you can do in a separate pot altogether. It's just like a fun bonus. All right, now I'm going to move on to seeds that are more of a 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch is about as deep as the top of my finger to the end of my nail. You can just measure that for yourself to get a rough idea of what that is for you. Let's see, what am I starting with? So I'll start with the Flaming Burst tomato seeds. Cherry tomato seeds are a little bit smaller than your like a cutting tomato, but makes sense because cherry tomatoes are much smaller than a regular cutting tomato. I'm only gonna do 3 per cell of my tomatoes and peppers. which leaves me with 4 extra to sow later. So I'm gonna do, I think I'll just use my finger for this. So it just goes right there. And I'm just gonna drop all 3 into the same hole. And when they sprout, I'm gonna let them go for about a week or so until I decide which sprout I want to keep. And then I will cut the other 2 out and let that one grow. Next row, we have the tomatillos and the ground cherry. These seeds are fairly small, but you'll still want to do them at a 1/4 inch deep. So these are the tomatillo seeds here. And because I'm doing 2 cells of the tomatillos, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I have 2 left. Okay, so there's only 8 of them there. So I'm just going to do 4 per cell because I'll only have 2 left over if I do just 3 per cell. So I'll do 4 just to get rid of them. Okay. And same thing, just in the same hole. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And cover them up. And next, the ground cherry. Also, little tiny seeds. How many do I have of those? So just 4 of these. There we go. Next we have the peppers. I'll be doing, so the Sugar Rush Peach pepper seeds are a little bit bigger. I'm just going to be doing 3 of these like I did with the tomatoes. Only 3 of those, which will leave 2 left in the packet for sowing at another time. So Sugar Rush Peach pepper, do 3 in the hole. Get that out of there. And the Amish. And last, we have the Gypsy Queens. Go right in there. Okay, that is it. That is the entire tray all sewed up, and we are ready to water them in. Okay, so for watering, it's going to be tempting to want to water over the top of your tray, but I'm going to teach you how to do a bottom watering. It's a bit more efficient when it comes to watering your plants because the soil is going to be taking up what it needs rather than you guessing if you're giving it enough. Bottom watering also helps prevent algae growth on the top as well as gnats. Just like the little flies, they're pretty irritating, pretty harmless to the plants themselves, but the larvae will eat the roots of your plants if they start laying eggs. And if you do end up with gnats or algae, you can sprinkle some cinnamon over the soil, and that should help prevent the gnats from laying their eggs. It's also a natural fungicide, so if you end up with any fungus, it should get rid of that as well. Bottom watering is super easy. All you have to do is just lift up the end here and pour the water into the bottom. You'll probably want it to be about a 1/4 inch deep or so. probably about 5 to 10 minutes or so for all the water to be soaked up into the soil medium. After about 5 minutes or so, you'll be able to touch the tops of the soil and you'll feel that it has soaked up quite a bit of water. And for your surface sow seeds, that should be enough moisture, but if you're nervous about it not being enough, you can take a spray bottle to it and just spritz the surface, and that should be enough moisture to get them to germinate. And all the other cells you can see, especially where you have poked little holes into the soil, you'll see that it's very much saturated. From there, once the soil has soaked up the water, you will remove the cells, and then you will dump the rest of that water out. After you dump out the excess water, you're going to put your humidity dome right on the top, and then I'll show you what to do after that. This is my setup here. I have a heat mat already heated up quite a bit, and I'm just going to slide it right on top. And there should be enough moisture in the soil to create the humid environment that these seeds need to trigger germination. As you can see here, I have already done some tomato and pepper seeds. And I'll get that a little bit closer there. So you can see the tomatoes have already sprouted. They're pretty quick to sprout when conditions are just right. This grow light has been on, I think I've been keeping it on for 24 hours because it produces a little bit of heat. So it's been able to heat up the soil just enough to get the tomatoes to germinate. And really anything above 65 degrees should get them there. 70, 75 is perfect. But the peppers, on the other hand, they have not shown up yet. So a gal at my seed sorting class actually suggested this, which I thought was brilliant, is once the other seeds have germinated much faster than the peppers will, putting a piece of saran wrap over these cells, and I'm just going to try a jar over that one, see if it works out. But the peppers do need a longer time of consistent moisture and consistent heat, so I'm hoping that creating these little environments here will help out with that. So once most of these seeds have sprouted, or at least as soon as you start to see these seeds sprout, take off the humidity dome and take out the heat mat, because you don't want to cook the roots with the heat mat in the soil, and you don't want to cause damping off with the humidity dome. That's when there's too much excess moisture and not enough air circulation. It will cause the seedlings to kind of rot. You definitely don't want that. So take everything, all the aids for your seedlings, take them out and just leave the tray as is. Keep up with watering. Probably start off with bottom watering, every other day or so. You can just kind of tap the surface of the soil, see if it's moist. If it's not, add some water, let it soak up what it needs, and then dump out the rest. Don't leave water standing in your tray, please. You can invest in some grow lights. This is a full spectrum light, and I have 3 of them here. This isn't necessary for starting your seeds. This is more for when you want something to flower and fruit indoors. I do, however, like having them because they do produce a little bit more heat, so I think that's why my tomatoes were able to start so fast. They do need some extra headroom though, so consider how much space you have to dedicate to a seed starting station, because these need to be at least 18 to 20 inches up off of your seedlings because they are very strong. But over here, I have some shop lights. These aren't as strong as a regular grow light, and they are perfect for just your vegetative growth. These are blue light. So when you're shopping for lights, you want a blue emitting light, and kind of mimics daylight. And that's a Kelvin rating of 5,000, 6,000 or up. Don't get like the warm lights because they won't be able to trigger photosynthesis. These are 4,000 lumens, so that's how strong the light is going to be for your plants. Because if they are less than 2,000 lumens, the light won't be strong enough to get to your plants, even if you have the lights super close like this. So, and all that information is in the care guide download on my website. So definitely check that out for that information. Each of these lights, about $20 each, and they're, again, kind of takes up a bit of space. They're 4 feet long. But if you're going to be starting seeds indoors consistently, I highly recommend either purchasing some of these like shop lights or the grow lights, just to give yourself a little more wiggle room. With another lighting solution would be just to get, just a single bulb. They do. This is an outdoor rated bulb. Daylight, look for the daylight. And then lumens, it's above 2,000. So this would be a good bulb to start with for your indoor seating, or get a grow light specifically for seeds and greens. And you can use just one of these lamps, and then keep them pretty close to, I'll use this tray as an example. You're probably going to want to keep them about that far away from your tray. Also, depending on how strong these lights are. I have not tested these lights out yet, but because they're only for seeds and greens, they're probably not super strong anyway. So keeping them right above your seed tray should be good enough. These seedlings on the ends might reach inside, kind of like lean inside for that light, but just kind of like rotate them, move them back and forth throughout the day to give them that. These are definitely the cheaper option if you want to invest in some lights, which I highly recommend you do, because if you don't have good lighting for your seedlings, they are going to start to reach for the light. They're going to try and seek out whatever light they can find. And if they don't have sufficient amount of light, they will become leggy. That means they're just stretching to find the light. But if they get too leggy, they will not be able to support themselves once you put them out into the garden. So they'll just kind of like flop over, and they won't grow as well as a seedling that had enough light. And finally, before I conclude this video, I'll talk about thinning your seedlings. As you can see, there are 4 little seedlings in this one cell. I'm going to let them go for about another week or so until I start to see their first set of true leaves appear. That'll be the set of leaves after these leaves right here. These are the water leaves. So the next set of leaves that comes out after that, I will determine which one looks to be the strongest, and then I will cut out the rest and leave that one. So, and to do that, you don't want to pull your seedlings up by the stem. You just want to take a little pair of scissors and cut them at the base. Because pulling out multiple actually seedlings will disturb the one that you want to keep. So you don't want to stress that one out too much. So just, be sure to trim them at the base. Don't just yank them out. So that concludes the tutorial for how to sow your warm season crops. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help. You can find me at Lutomasa Gardens on Instagram, or through my website. There's a contact page and everything if you want to get me directly through email. Be sure to subscribe to my newsletter, where I'll be posting updates about how my trays are doing and how I troubleshoot any issues that might come up with those. And yeah, stay tuned. I'll be announcing my seed selection for the salad green kit that I'm putting together next month, and then I'll also do a tutorial about that. It'll be a lot easier than your warm season crops. They don't have as persnickety of needs as your like your peppers will, so those will be a lot easier. And yeah, make sure to subscribe on YouTube as well, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.